South Africa, a land of breathtaking beauty where the landscapes stretch from the rolling hills and vast savannas to the majestic Table Mountain standing tall against the horizon. This is a place where diverse cultures converge, each adding its own unique thread to the rich tapestry of South African society. The history here is both inspiring and heartbreaking, a testament to the resilience and spirit of its people. Long before European ships arrived, indigenous people thrived in this southern tip of Africa. The San and Khoi people, the original inhabitants, lived in harmony with the land, their lives deeply intertwined with nature. The San and Khoi people for millennia lived in harmony with nature, their ancient wisdom woven into the fabric of the land. Their rock art, some of the oldest in the world, tells stories of their daily lives, their spiritual beliefs, and their deep connection to the earth. Then came the Nguni tribes, migrating south, bringing with them their languages, their customs, and their own unique stories. The Zulu, Xhosa, and other Nguni peoples added new layers to the cultural mosaic of South Africa. These were not homogeneous groups, mind you. Each tribe, each clan had its own distinct identity, its own traditions and beliefs. Within each tribe, each clan existed a tapestry of beliefs and traditions. Ceremonies, dances, and rituals were integral parts of their lives, celebrating everything from harvests to rites of passage. This rich tapestry, this vibrant mosaic of cultures, would sadly be challenged, forever altered by the arrival of outsiders seeking not understanding, but dominion. The arrival of Europeans marked the beginning of a new and often painful chapter in South Africa's history. These outsiders, you guessed it, came from Europe. Their arrival was driven by a desire for exploration, trade, and ultimately control. First the Portuguese, their ships rounding the Cape of Good Hope, searching for a shortcut to the riches of the East. They were followed by other European powers, each with their own ambitions. Then the Dutch, establishing a foothold, planting the seeds of a system that would cast a long, dark shadow over South Africa. They called it apartheid, a policy of racial segregation that would have devastating effects on the country's people. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Before the darkness, there was light. Before the segregation, there was coexistence. The land was a place of peace and harmony, where different groups lived side by side, each contributing to the rich cultural landscape. Before the segregation, there was coexistence. Communities thrived, cultures mingled, and a sense of unity prevailed despite the diversity. It's important to remember that to understand that South Africa's story is not just one of oppression, but also one of resilience, of hope, of the enduring power of the human spirit. Figures like Nelson Mandela emerged, leading the fight against apartheid and inspiring the world with their courage and determination. It's a story that continues to unfold, a story that demands to be told. Today, South Africa is a vibrant democracy, a nation that celebrates its diversity and looks to the future with hope and optimism. The journey has been long and arduous, but the spirit of the South African people remains unbroken, a testament to their strength and resilience. European arrival, as with many places around the globe, meant trouble. The sight of those ships on the horizon was a harbinger of profound change, and not for the better. The Dutch East India Company established a trading post in 1652, marking the start of a long, exploitative relationship. This trading post was not just a centre of commerce, but a foothold for further expansion and control. Indigenous populations were pushed off their land, their way of life disrupted. The arrival of the Dutch meant the beginning of a systematic displacement, where the native people were forced to abandon their ancestral homes and traditions. It wasn't just about land, though. It was about control. Control over the land meant control over the people, their resources and their futures. The colonists divided the land among themselves, disregarding the existing social and cultural structures. Control of resources, yes, but also control of people. The colonists exploited the land for its wealth and the people for their labour. Indigenous people were often forced into labour, working under harsh conditions for the benefit of their colonisers. The Dutch, followed by the British, imposed their own systems of governance, their own laws, their own values. These systems were designed to benefit the colonizers, often at the expense of the indigenous populations. This wasn't just about imposing a different way of life, it was about power. The colonizers used military force and political power to maintain their dominance, ensuring that their rule went unchallenged. The colonists, feeling superior, needed to justify their actions. They propagated ideas of racial superiority, claiming that they were bringing civilization to the savages. This narrative was used to legitimize their exploitation and oppression, and so the seeds of racism were sown. These ideas of racial hierarchy became deeply ingrained in the social fabric, leading to systemic discrimination and segregation. Black people, indigenous people, were seen as less than, less civilized, less intelligent, less human. This dehumanization was used to justify their mistreatment and exclusion from the benefits of society. This wasn't just a South African thing, no sir. This was happening all over the world wherever European colonialism reared its ugly head. From the Americas to Asia, the story was the same: exploitation, oppression, and resistance. The discovery of diamonds and gold in the late 19th century only made things worse. These precious resources attracted even more colonizers, eager to stake their claim and extract wealth. It fueled greed, intensified the competition for land and resources. The rush for diamonds and gold led to increased conflict, both among the colonizers and between the colonizers and the indigenous people. Wars were fought, treaties broken. The colonizers often made agreements with the indigenous people only to break them when it suited their interests. This betrayal further deepened the mistrust and animosity. The indigenous population, already marginalized, found themselves pushed further to the fringes of society. They were confined to ghettos and reserves, with limited access to resources and opportunities. But you know what they say about pressure? It creates diamonds. The immense pressure and hardship faced by the indigenous people led to a resilience and strength that would become the foundation of their resistance. And in the face of this immense pressure, something remarkable began to emerge. Resistance. The indigenous people began to organize, to fight back against their oppressors. This resistance would grow and evolve, becoming a powerful force for change. After the Boer Wars, a series of conflicts that left deep scars on the land and its people, and the formation of the Union of South Africa in 1910, things got really bad. The new political structure was designed to favor the white minority, setting the stage for decades of systemic inequality. In 1948, the National Party, fueled by racist ideology, came to power. Their victory was a turning point, marking the beginning of an era of institutionalized racism. Their goal? To cement the superiority of white South Africans and keep everyone else down. They propagated the idea that segregation was necessary for the survival of the white race. This system, folks, was apartheid, a word that would come to symbolize one of the most oppressive regimes in modern history. It wasn't just about being mean, it was about creating a society where the color of your skin determined your fate. It was a meticulously crafted, legally enforced system of racial segregation and discrimination. Laws were passed to ensure that every aspect of life was segregated. Imagine this, your entire life dictated by the color of your skin. From the moment you were born, your destiny was set, where you could live, work, go to school, even the quality of education you received, even who you could love, all determined by race. Interracial relationships were forbidden, tearing families apart. Black South Africans were stripped of their citizenship, forced to carry passbooks, which were essentially internal passports, and confined to overcrowded townships. These areas were underdeveloped, lacking basic amenities and infrastructure. They were denied basic human rights, such as the right to vote, freedom of movement, and access to quality healthcare and education, treated like second-class citizens in their own land. The daily indignities and systemic violence were a constant reminder of their subjugation. The world, thankfully, started to notice. International media began to cover the atrocities, bringing global attention to the plight of black South Africans. Sanctions were imposed, But the struggle was far from over. Economic pressure was just one part of the fight against apartheid. This wasn't just a local issue, no sir, it resonated globally, highlighting the universal struggle against oppression and injustice. It became a global symbol of injustice, galvanizing activists, artists and intellectuals. Musicians wrote songs, artists created powerful works, and writers penned poignant essays. And everyday people around the world to raise their voices in solidarity with the oppressed people of South Africa. Protests and marches were held in major cities across the globe. The fight for justice in South Africa became a fight for human rights everywhere. It inspired other movements and became a rallying cry for equality. And at the forefront of this fight, a man emerged from the depths of prison, his spirit unbroken, his resolve unwavering. Nelson Mandela. His release marked a new chapter in the struggle, symbolizing hope and the possibility of change. You see, South Africans, they ain't the type to just take things lying down. Resistance to oppression was woven into the very fabric of their being. From the early days of colonialism through the horrors of apartheid, people found ways to fight back. They organized, they protested, they wrote, they sang, they danced their defiance. Organizations like the African National Congress, ANC, rose to prominence, demanding equality and justice. These weren't just political movements. No, sir. They were powered by the dreams of mothers and fathers who yearned for a better future for their children. They were fueled by the unwavering belief that South Africa belonged to all who lived in it, black and white. The struggle, however, came at a heavy price. Many courageous souls were imprisoned, tortured, or even killed for daring to challenge the system. But their sacrifices were not in vain. Every act of defiance, every voice raised against injustice, chipped away at the foundation of apartheid. It was a long, arduous journey, but the spirit of resistance never wavered. Why? Because deep down they knew a better South Africa, a free South Africa, was possible.